I understand that it is used for certain particular reasons, but I've seen a lot of abuse. If it's doing these things and you mix them with other drugs, then it can get fatal. Okay, so in relation to Kratom, which is a drug, some people call it Kratom, you can find out all kinds of information on Kratom online. You can type it in Google, you can go on YouTube, and you can watch a lot of videos. I'm noticing that there's more people that are justifying the use of Kratom and making it seem like it's okay. I understand that it is used for certain particular reasons, but I've seen a lot of abuse from personal experience in the last few years. I think that when you're not comfortable with right here, right now, you'll try to put any kind of substance inside of your body. Based off of personal experience working on the front lines of addiction, I have seen a lot of people. When I first saw Kratom come around, it was about, I'd say 5 or 6 years ago. I was working in a treatment center and people were getting drug tested for heavy drugs, for any kind of drugs, for opiates, for methamphetamine, for MDMA, all the different types of drugs, the average drugs that people would use, the type of stuff that would show up in your drug test. Now, there were people that were getting their hands on Kratom. Where were they buying it? These were kids that were in rehab. They may have been in a lower level of care, so they were going to smoke shops and buying Kratom. And they would take the Kratom, sometimes in a capsule form, sometimes they'll make a tea out of it, but not usually. They wouldn't usually chew on it, but regardless, they would take this stuff and it wasn't showing up in their drug tests. So a lot of people, they were flying under the radar. And what was happening to these people is that they were, obviously not sober. They were presenting as being sober. They were acting like they were sober. They were saying they were sober, but they weren't. They were shortchanging themselves because they had quit all the heavy drugs, but they've kind of moved over into another realm of drug use. And addicts are smart. They're creative. They'll find different ways of using drugs. One of the other personal experiences that I had was one day I was house managing as a house manager at this beach house in Newport Beach, and it was an upstairs downstairs house. And I remember when I got to the house, I was actually coming home one day and I wasn't really supposed to be there. I was on my way to some other place, but I'd left some paperwork at home. And when I got home and I pulled up into the driveway, I saw a couple of guys outside on the balcony, and one of them went face down on the ground. So I didn't know what was wrong with him. When I went upstairs into the house, I walked into the house and I noticed that there was another guy that ran into the bedroom, and when I went into the bedroom after him, he was in the bedroom banging his head against the wall. Now, I didn't know what was wrong with him. I was like, what are you guys on? So when I came back out, another guy fell in the living room on his back and went into full-on convulsions. So I wasn't exactly sure what was going on and what they had used, but I kept asking him, what did you guys use? And I called 911 in that moment, and the paramedics came, and what the outcome was that these guys had gotten Kratom from this place down the street as well as spice. So they had mixed the two drugs together, which I don't recommend it, because from what I saw that day, all three of them were hospitalized. And I'm not saying that this will happen for everybody, but I think it has the types of effects where if it stimulizes you, or it actually it's a depressant in one sense, or it can be a stimulant in another sense. If it's doing these things and you mix them with other drugs, then it can get fatal. From what I'm understanding and from what I've learned is that when Kratom is mixed with other drugs, which usually it is, because Kratom doesn't seem to have enough of that intensity that people would want, but it definitely enhances other drug use. When you mix them with other drugs, it can become detrimental. So do I condone it? I don't believe in it at all. I watched this guy on YouTube. He's talking Kratom, and he kind of does it with a smirk on his face, like it's okay in his world to do Kratom. And maybe, perhaps it is, to each their own. But I don't promote it. I don't condone it. I don't condone use of Kratom. It's more new in our country. There's a reason why right now I believe that in 6 different states it has become regulated. But for some odd reason, the FDA has not put they haven't made it a scheduled drug, as far as, not to my knowledge, on a national level. And I believe that it really should be, because it's dangerous. And right now, your kids could be using Kratom. So basically, you might be drug testing Billy for opiate use because he's had a history with opiates in the past, or with meth use because he's had a history with meth in the past. But he might be flying under the radar because he's going to the local smoke shop, buying Kratom and using it, which is, all kinds of bad, because then he might be able to pull the wool over his parents' eyes because he's not fully loaded on the heavy stuff, but he's still loaded on the light stuff. So I think that Kratom should be banned as a whole. As a person who's in recovery, I know that a lot of people that enter recovery for whatever reason, some of them really want to get recovered, using Kratom I don't give it a green light, period. That's all there is to it. I'm not down for Kratom at all.